Picture this. You are standing on the shore of a vast, seemingly endless ocean. The salt spray is thick in the air. The waves are crashing violently against these jagged black rocks.
Yeah, and stretching out behind you is an entire army. I mean, we are talking about a legion of fierce, battle-hardened warriors who have marched relentlessly.
Right, conquering literally, every obstacle in their path. But now they have hit this absolute undeniable wall. You look across that impossible expanse of churning water and, well, you know that your ultimate goal is on the other side.
And the stakes hanging over the shoreline literally could not be higher. This isn't just a military campaign stalling out. Across that immense water lies the island fortress of Lanka.
And waiting there, held captive in the Ashok Vatika, which is this heavily guarded garden, is Mother Sita.
Exactly. I mean, Lord Rama is completely relying on this army to find her. So this advance hasn't just halted. A divine mission is, on the brink of complete collapse.
So today's deep dive takes you straight into that suffocating moment of crisis.
Mm.
We are exploring a stunning narrative katha, which is a traditional art form that blends spoken storytelling with incredibly energetic singing.
It really captures this exact pivot point perfectly.
It does. And as we step onto that beach with this army, we aren't just recounting an ancient story about trying to cross a physical body of water. We are looking at a masterclass on dormant potential, the deep psychology of self-doubt, and the exact anatomy of a psychological breakthrough.
The scene painted on that shoreline is masterful because of how intensely relatable the psychology actually is.
Right.
You have the Vanara army, the monkey army, and they are paralyzed in their tracks.
Yeah.
The central question hanging over the entire assembly is brutally simple. Who will cross this vast ocean?
And the heavy, suffocating silence that follows that question is something we all recognize. I mean, you have all these legendary warriors.
Right.
And what do they do when suddenly faced with an impossible, seemingly suicidal task? They start talking, they take turns boasting.
Oh, absolutely. They stand around loudly, listing their past victories, flexing their muscles, talking about how powerful they are.
Right, all the foes they've crushed. But when the actual question is called, when it is time to step up to the water's edge and leap toward Lanka, nobody moves.
No one has the actual courage to back up the talk. The contrast between the sheer noise of their boasting and the reality of their physical hesitation is, well, it's fascinating.
It really is.
The ocean here is functioning as the ultimate external barrier. It is an immovable reality check that just strips away all ego. Loud confidence in this moment is exposed as a mask.
So they're just generating a massive illusion of action through their words.
Yes, because they are terrified of the silence. That silence demands real action, and they know they fall short.
It is the ultimate deflection strategy. I was reading this and thinking about how we see this exact dynamic all the time today, just in different clothes.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine a high-stakes modern scenario. You are in a tense boardroom meeting. Everyone is sitting around a massive mahogany table, aggressively listing their credentials.
Loudly debating their Q3 metrics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talking about how they disrupted this or that sector, defending their turf. But then the CEO puts a truly impossible, completely unprecedented career-making project on the table.
A project with a 99% chance of failure.
Absolute crickets.
Yeah.
Everyone suddenly finds their shoes incredibly interesting. The ghosting evaporates the second a real ocean is put in front of them.
While the psychological mechanism is very similar, elevating the stakes from a boardroom to this shoreline adds a crucial layer.
How so?
Well, in a boardroom, if you fail that impossible project, you might lose your job or take a hit to your ego. On this beach, if you attempt to leap to Lanka and fail, you drop into a churning ocean and die.
Wow. Yeah, that changes things.
The bragging of these warriors isn't just corporate posturing. It is a profound trauma response to impending doom. When faced with a threshold that requires a fundamental leap into the unknown, reciting past victories doesn't actually generate courage.
It just fills the air with noise.
Exactly, to delay the inevitable admission of absolute terror.
But amidst all that noise and thinly veiled terror, the narrative does this brilliant cinematic pan. It moves the camera completely away from the loud, boastful crowd and zooms in on a single, specific detail.
Sitting off to one side.
Right. Off to one side of this chaotic assembly, sitting completely silent, is Hanuman. And he isn't sitting there feeling superior to the braggarts.
No, there is no pride in his posture at all.
There is no display of enthusiasm. It is just pure, unadulterated humility. He is sitting on the sand, completely unaware that time itself is about to call his name.
That silence is entirely different from the silence of the boasting warriors when the question was initially asked. Their silence was born of fear after their ego ran out.
Right, the ego depletion.
Hanuman's silence is foundational. It is a state of total suspension.
I have to pause and push back on this a little, or at least ask the question that I think a lot of people would immediately have.
Sure, go ahead.
If Hanuman is the ultimate powerhouse of this entire army, the one being actually capable of this feat, why on earth is he hiding in the back?
It's a fair question.
Is this just a case of extreme modesty? You know, like that friend who is an Olympic-level runner but tells everyone they just jog a little on weekends? Or is he genuinely, completely unaware of what he can do?
This cuts right to the core of the psychology here. It is not fear, and it is absolutely not a performance of modesty. Hanuman had literally forgotten his own strength.
Wait, literally?
Yes, literally. He wasn't pretending to be weak to make the other warriors feel better about their hesitation. His capacity was genuinely hidden from his own conscious mind.
That's wild.
The text describes him using a powerful, deeply evocative metaphor. He's called a sleeping mountain.
A sleeping mountain. That is such a vivid image.
Think about what a mountain actually represents. Immense mass, unshakable foundation, tectonic power, but it is sleeping.
It has no idea what it is.
Exactly. It is entirely dormant in its awareness of its own scale. Hanuman is physically immense in his potential, but completely cut off from the realization of that potential.
So we are not talking about imposter syndrome here. Imposter syndrome, which feels like a modern plague, is when you know you did the work.
Right, you have the degree on the wall.
You got the promotion,
Yeah.
but you internally feel like a fraud. You feel like someone is going to tap you on the shoulder and expose you.
Yeah.
Hanuman doesn't even know he has a resume. He literally has amnesia about his own capabilities. He is a mountain that genuinely believes it's a pebble.
That distinction is critical. When you are battling imposter syndrome, you still retain a conscious relationship with your abilities, even if it is a highly conflicted one.
You know they're there.
You know the door to your power exists, even if you are afraid to open it. Hanuman's power is locked away behind a closed door in his own mind, and he cannot access it through sheer willpower.
Because he doesn't remember the door's even there.
Exactly.
If you're listening right now, try to think about a time someone pointed out a talent you possess that you didn't even realize you had. Maybe a friend noticed you have an incredible knack for de-escalating arguments.
Or a boss pointed out you naturally organize chaos.
Right, you were doing it effortlessly, completely blind to it as a skill. That is a micro version of what Hanuman is experiencing on this beach. He needs someone from the outside to show him what he is.
A closed door needs a key. And on this shoreline, the key arrives in the form of an elder mentor figure named Jambavan.
Jambavan steps up.
He steps away from the boasting crowd and approaches the sleeping mountain. He smiles, which is a gentle, knowing reaction in the middle of a frantic crisis, and he directly challenges Hanuman's silence.
What does he say?
He asks, "Why are you sitting silent? Have you forgotten your true form?"
That phrasing is incredible. True form. Jambavan isn't asking Hanuman to become something new.
No, not at all.
He isn't giving a motivational speech about trying harder. He is asking him to remember what already exists.
Jambavan isn't trying to instill a new skill. He is triggering a recollection of an inherent nature.
This is where the Katha bursts into this incredibly energetic, soaring singing, and the backstory it reveals is phenomenal. Jambavan starts recounting Hanuman's childhood.
Right.
And as a toddler, Hanuman didn't just have a lot of energy. He looked up at the sky, saw the glowing sun, and mistook it for a sweet piece of fruit.
As toddlers do.
Right, so what does a divine toddler do? He just launches himself from the earth and flies right into space to grab it.
The sheer scale of that ambition is staggering. It is the unfiltered, unconditioned belief of a child, but it is backed by world-shattering divine power.
He was so unstoppable in his flight toward the sun that the gods panicked. Indra, the king of the gods, had to strike him with the Vajra, the ultimate thunderbolt weapon, just to halt his momentum.
But even that couldn't stop him permanently.
No. The gods ultimately had to step in, sing his praises, and grant him an astonishing array of boons. We're talking about blessings of invulnerability from fire, immunity to weapons, the speed of the wind, and eternal life.
He was a cosmic force of nature from day one.
Literally.
That immense untamed power is exactly what led to the crucial piece of lore that Jambavan brings to light. The sages of that era observed this child with godlike capabilities and recognized a profound philosophical danger.
So they intervened.
They decreed a very specific condition upon Hanuman. Because his power was so vast, they mandated that he would forget his strength.
Wow.
The power wouldn't be taken away, it remained in his blood and bone, but his memory of it would be erased.
I want to spend a minute on why the sages do this, because it completely changes how we view power. They didn't curse him out of spite or anger.
Not at all. It was an act of cosmic preservation. A child possessing absolute untamed power without the maturity, wisdom, or purpose to wield it is a danger to the entire universe.
Power without purpose is simply destruction.
Precisely. The sages essentially placed his divine strength into a psychological trust fund. The prophecy stated that his strength would remain entirely dormant until the exact right time arrived.
At which point someone else would have to remind him of who he truly was.
Exactly.
The power had to be earned through service, rather than just wielded blindly by birthright. That detail fundamentally changes how we view this interaction on the beach.
It does.
Jambavan isn't acting as a traditional teacher. A teacher gives you new information, they teach you how to do math or how to swing a bat. Jambavan is acting as a psychological mirror.
That's a great way to put it.
Think of a modern elite sports coach. The best coaches don't usually teach a seasoned athlete a brand new physical motion. They watch a batter who is in a terrible slump, adjust their shoulders a fraction of an inch, and remind them, you are a hitter, remember who you are.
Yeah.
Jambavan is the external trigger required by the Sage's Trust Fund. He gives Hanuman his purpose in that exact moment, saying, you were born for Ram's cause. Wake up now.
It is a brilliant mechanism. The sages ensured that Hanuman's ultimate power could only be unlocked in the context of service and community.
He couldn't access it selfishly.
Right, because he couldn't access it alone. He needed the observation and the voice of another, a Jambavan, to speak his reality back into existence.
So Jambavan turns the key. And the awakening is described in a way that gives you literal goosebumps. The sleeping mountain wakes up.
And it's not a slow, groggy morning stretch. It is an instant seismic shift.
Hanuman's entire vision and perspective changed the absolute millisecond those words are spoken.
The psychological barrier shatters entirely, and this is where we see a beautifully nuanced detail in his transformation.
What's that?
The text notes that even as his self-belief violently awoke and this godlike power surged back into his conscious mind, his humility remained completely intact.
Oh, wow. So he didn't suddenly become like the boasting warriors on the shore.
No.
He didn't start bragging about how he was going to jump the ocean better than anyone else.
Exactly. The power was integrated with his humility rather than replacing it. Physically, the description is awe-inspiring. He expands in size, matching the scale of an actual mountain.
He shouts, Jai Shri Ram.
And the sheer force of this awakening, this realization of his true form, makes the very ocean tremble. The physical mountains around them shake.
And the Vanara army, which had been frozen to that suffocating, terrified silence, absolutely erupts into deafening cheers.
Jambavan just stands there and smiles because he knows it's game over.
The impossible is about to be done. But before Hanuman actually takes off, the narrative slows down. It breaks down the exact sequence of his departure, and it is a complete masterclass in the anatomy of a breakthrough.
It really is.
Before he does anything else, before he flexes a single massive muscle to jump, he bows down in deep respect to Jambavan.
That is a physical manifestation of that retained humility. He is acknowledging the mentor who held the mirror, the person who gave him back his own mind.
After bowing, he remembers Rama in his heart. He centers himself completely on his ultimate purpose.
Then he actively fills himself with faith.
Right. And only then, after the reverence, the purpose, and the faith are perfectly aligned, does he leap. And he crosses that vast, terrifying, impossible ocean in a single, continuous bound.
It's incredible.
Looking at this whole arc, it feels like the physical exertion of jumping across an ocean was actually the easiest part of his day. The real battle was fought and won entirely in his head on the shoreline.
That is the exact thesis of this narrative. On that day, it wasn't just a physical ocean of salt water that was crossed. What really happened was a fundamental victory of belief over doubt. It was the absolute triumph of remembrance over forgetfulness.
The physical leap was merely the inevitable echo of the internal alignment.
Once the respect grounded him, the remembrance of his master gave him direction, and faith provided the fuel. The physical action was almost an afterthought.
It is the ultimate example of utilizing immense, reclaimed power to make the completely impossible possible for a higher purpose.
Absolutely.
Which brings us right back to you listening to this. We all have our shoreline moments, don't we?
We really do.
We all face our own vast oceans in life. Maybe it is a massive career pivot that absolutely terrifies you. Maybe it's a creative project you are convinced you aren't good enough to finish.
Or maybe it is a personal emotional barrier that seems totally insurmountable.
And so often we do exactly what Hanuman did. We sit silently on the shore. We look at the dark water. And we completely, genuinely forget the incredible strength, the resilience, and the past flights toward the sun that we have already demonstrated in our own lives.
We become sleeping mountains.
We become sleeping mountains.
That is where the undeniable value of community and profound mentorship comes in. We cannot always be our own catalysts.
Right.
Sometimes our internal amnesia is simply too deep. We need a Jambavan in our lives. We need someone who looks at us not for the terrified silence we are currently projecting, but for the true form they know we possess.
Like someone who can point directly at our dormant potential and remind us of who we actually are so that we can wake up, expand, and take the leap.
It totally changes how you look at the people around you, both who you need in your corner and who you might need to be a Jambavan for today.
It really does. But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought drawn directly from the deeply specific mechanics of the sage's prophecy.
Okay.
The sages didn't just suggest it would be nice if Hanuman had a friend. They mandated that he had to be reminded of his power by someone else. He was universally locked out of his own greatness until another person spoke it into existence. So I want you to ponder this deeply as you go about your day. Why is it that the universe sometimes requires our greatest, most unstoppable strengths to remain entirely invisible to us until they are finally reflected back to us through the unwavering belief of another person?